Hello, this is Andrew Wasson from Creative Guitar Studio. It is Friday, April 23rd, 2010. Well, today I wanted to talk a little bit about illegal music downloading. This week I read an article in the Globe and Mail about an intellectual property lawyer in Toronto who wants to revive Canada's copyright debate to deal with illegal music downloading. This article talked about how Canada has to update its, as they put it, old and out-of-date copyright laws to ensure that musicians are getting paid, from how the internet works. See, there's a select group of artists and record companies against internet service providers, and almost to an effect, they're against their own fans, the music consumer. And these artists and their record companies and their lawyers are basically playing a game of catch-up to try to keep finding new ways to stop the download of copyrighted music. Well, unless you're living your life knowing absolutely nothing about the internet and how it works, you would understand that nobody is going to stop downloading off the internet. Not the ISPs, not the government, and not a group of lawyers. You basically can't stop it. It's how the internet is designed, and is designed to just basically do the aspect of transfer of data and information. So what these lawyers want to do in reviving Canada's copyright debate is they want the government to create more laws. Well, we don't need any new laws. Just enforce the laws that already exist. And really, why do these lawyers believe that it's the government's responsibility to make sure their artists are getting more money? I thought the government was supposed to be about social programs, education, infrastructure, not making sure that some record company got their $1.29 full payment from iTunes and nothing got out to somebody's hands for free through a download of sorts. It makes me think, years ago, when I was a kid and they were pushing for a levy on blank cassette tapes because, the record companies were saying, one person out there is buying an album or a record, and their friend is copying the record onto a blank cassette, and that's illegal, and somehow we need to get money for that. So, that was, you got to think too, that was when they were still making buckets of money. And when CDs came out, the entire production side of music actually through the, how they pressed it and, how they shipped it to stores on CDs, it actually dropped substantially. But what happened is they actually started making more money because they didn't lower the price for us, the consumer. In fact, I can remember when CDs started being sold in stores where I lived, they were more money than the vinyl albums that they were replacing. So for the record industry, their manufacturing costs shrunk substantially, but the consumers saw no decrease in the price of music on the store shelf. And I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe it was Garth Brooks who wanted to increase the levy on cassette tapes in the 90s there because people were taping his CDs, I guess, onto cassettes, and he wasn't happy with that. So anyway, as the years went on, you got to think, how this all evolved. So in the years went on, in the late 90s, people weren't taping things onto cassettes anymore because basically computers were being sold that could duplicate CDs. So consumers were duplicating CDs on their computers. And, the record companies tried to create locked CDs, and they tried to implement ways of stopping this, none of which were actually very effective. But they did lobby the government, for another levy, and this time it was on blank CDs, and, because they're successful. So you think, okay, now today, with the internet being what it is, high-speed internet, and, media devices like the iPod and so forth being what they are, we basically moved away from, any kind of physical distribution. The physical CD is becoming a thing of the past as time goes on. So songs are essentially, digital downloads, they're digital files. They're not physical that you can hold in your hand much anymore. And let's face it, they're instantly shared on the internet because it's a digital item. They get sent in emails. MP3s are small enough you can send them in an email. They're downloaded quickly with peer-to-peer software like LimeWire or BitTorrents or whatever. So now the record companies, they want the government to implement a levy upon MP3 players. This was the whole aspect of the article there. So, and they're saying the levy could be upwards of $75, when you go and buy your next iPod. But you got to think, where is all this money going? It seems to get kind of shady here. Who gets the money from the levy? Because really, 80% of the music out there is being made by independent artists. It's like musicians, they're driving around the country in a van, playing gigs, trying to survive. Is the Recording Industry Association of America, or, here in Canada, it's the Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers of Canada, are they going to cut those independent musicians a check, because as soon as you put out a CD, you're going to become a member of the associations. Because really, these independent musicians are the ones that could really use the money. Some of these musicians living on the road barely make $10 or $12,000 a year. They're the ones that need help. So what's going to happen to this levy? Is the levy just going to go maybe to the top 20% who have the big record companies behind them? And, do those top 20% actually really see any of the money from the levies anyway? How is it actually reported to them? Or maybe do the associations just collect the money and, they basically kind of deal with how the money is divvied up between them and the record company? So you start seeing it's getting kind of shady overall. I've been a member of the Society of Composers, Authors, and Music Publishers of Canada for a number of years, and they've never paid me any money. And my music's, played on the radio all the time. It's, it's in movies. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, how come I'm not getting any royalties from this? Do I have to pursue the Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, maybe with a lawsuit myself? I don't know. But, I think it's a good thing for the government to basically just keep out of this, and let's just allow the market to evolve on its own. It's quite likely that being a musician will eventually become completely independent anyway in the future. It already is that way for probably 80% or more of the musicians out there right now. We don't need any more levies or government intervention. The music industry really is just going to have to simply evolve. Imagine really if every industry that got affected by evolutions in technology wanted new laws created by the government to protect them. The fact is that the free market, these affected manufacturers, basically in the free market, they go out of business. And their related industry somehow simply evolves. The people working for these companies get other jobs, and that is exactly what both the record companies and the select musicians pursuing government intervention with this issue will have to just face up to. The industry is changing, and we all have to evolve and figure out new ways of making a decent living doing this music thing. So anyway, thanks. That's it for today. I'll be blogging again next week. Leave your comments below and let me know what your opinion is on all this. But until next time, take care, everybody. Bye for now.